or the Q&A. So everyone that's in the room, welcome, and feel free to ask any questions to Ruth or myself in the chat or in the Q&A. And we had planned to actually do a booth, but I believe that the person setting up the event might have set it up as more of like an informational session. So maybe I'll just go ahead and talk to you all about transfer and show you through our website. So you can see where you can find some very useful information. Does that sound good to you, Ruth?
Yes, that sounds perfect.
Okay, great. And so then anybody that is in the room with us, and we see there are some students on the list, feel free to let us know, if you're interested in transferring to a university, any schools that you're thinking about, any majors that you're thinking about. We'd love to know a little more information about you. But I would love to share with you some information about us. So as I said, my name is Kate Porter, and I coordinate our University Transfer Career Center at Cuesta. And then Ruth Hansen is our fabulous Transfer Center specialist. So Ruth is in our Zoom lobby on a daily basis to help students answer their transfer. And I'd love to start by just showing you where to find our website, because sometimes it's hard to find on the Cuesta. So if you go to the Cuesta homepage and then you hover over admissions and aid, you'll find us on the far right hand side where it says Transfer Center, and hopefully you can see that okay on the screen. I don't see how to make it any bigger, but so once you go there, you'll see this is our webpage, and we have so much information in here for students that are starting at Cuesta that have the goal of transfer, and we really want to help you get started on the right foot just from your beginning time at Cuesta. And you can actually, this website's totally open to the public, so you can feel free to take time and check it out at home, but I'll just give you a little bit of information. So if you look at transfer steps, it really walks you through the 6 major steps of transferring, starting with choosing your major, which is always an important first step, and then choosing your transfer universities, learning your requirements, how to get help and resources that can help you along the way. And then a big step is always the application process to universities, and we're here to help students through that entire year of applying to schools, all the steps involved in the application process, and then also when you receive your admission letter from university, we're here to help you transition and have a successful, smooth transfer. So feel free, you can actually go in, all of these are live links that'll take you to a new page with lots of information about, and more links, but how to walk through each step of the transfer process. So that's something you all can check out. Resource that we have is just exploring colleges and universities. So if you know you're going to come to Cuesta and you want to start the process of exploring colleges and universities, you can use some of the links to get some good university information. So I saw that someone was interested in transferring to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So I'd love to share with you some information about our acceptance rates at Cal Poly SLO. So we do have a number of students that come to Cuesta with the goal of transferring to Cal Poly SLO. And we also have the highest number of students admitted at Cal Poly SLO every year from a community college or from any college. So you can see that our numbers, from Cuesta transfer rates to Cal Poly SLO, they were in about the mid 30s, mid 40s, and then this past cycle for fall 2020, we jumped up to 52% acceptance rate. So over half of our students were admitted at Cal Poly SLO. And the transfer average of all transfer applicants that applied to Cal Poly SLO, the transfer average acceptance rate was only 19%. So you can see our 52% is quite a bit higher than that. So we take pride in that. We really try to advise students well on what classes to take, what they need to do in order to be competitive applicants for Cal Poly SLO. And we know that our students coming in are really motivated. So that definitely helps as well, because grade point average is very, very important to Cal Poly. So if that is you and you're interested in coming to Cuesta and preparing to transfer to Cal Poly, then I would encourage you to look at this page and check out the links that are on here. So a couple important things to know, that Cal Poly does have a list of required and desired classes for every major that they want applicants to have in order to be competitive. So checking out this link to Cal Poly transfer selection criteria is really helpful, so you can know which classes you're going to need to take for your major. And then we also use a website called assist.org to show students which courses at Cuesta College articulate with classes at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo or any other CSU or UC campus. So very important tool to use is assist.org. It'll show you requirements that you need to transfer and also which classes are equivalent. And I'm just taking a quick pause to see if any questions have come in. Doesn't look like it, so I'll keep talking. Ruth, did you have anything to?
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right. So I would say the number of our the highest number of our students at Cuesta end up transferring to California state universities, and there are 24 CSU campuses in the system. And Cal Poly SLO, as I mentioned before, is the school that we have the most of our CSU applicants actually apply to, are admitted at, and even attend every fall cycle. So, but you can, we always encourage students to take a look at the list, explore each of the campuses on the list, and then meet with a counselor to set up a plan so you know exactly what classes to take. But doing the research is a really important part, so you can feel free to use this page on our Transfer Center website to explore these different campuses.
We have a question from chat.
All right.
Is there a preferred transfer agreement between Cuesta and Cal Poly SLO?
Great question. So no, there is actually no transfer agreement. There's no transfer admission guarantee. Poly, unfortunately. That's the bad news. But the good news is, like I said before, that has not held our students back in any way, even though there is no guarantee and there is no preference that is given to Cuesta College applicants. We do still have that really strong admission number. But we do know that if you are graduating from a local high school, that you will get some additional consideration for being a local high school graduate. So that is something that can work in your favor. And I'm assuming that some of the students that are attending today are graduating from local high schools probably in the next couple months. So if that is you and you're thinking about Cal Poly, then just know that when you apply as a transfer applicant, that benefit of the local high school graduation status from a high school in our county also does carry over when you apply as a transfer applicant. So that can help. That's a great question. Any other questions about Cal Poly? Okay. And I'm not seeing the questions on the chat, Ruth, so if you want to keep telling me when you hear them.
Yes, that one came to me directly.
Okay, perfect. That's
but I'll keep an eye on the chat as well and let you know.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so back to the CSU page. So if you are thinking about California State Universities, something that you can consider at Cuesta is earning an associate degree for transfer. This is a degree that you would earn and receive at Cuesta College, but it was actually a degree that was written by the California State University system in partnership with California Community Colleges to help students that want to transfer in a specific major to meet all of the lower division requirements for that major, and to also be able to transfer seamlessly into that major once they transfer over into the CSU. So there's a lot of benefits and perks to earning an associate degree for transfer. And we do also have the highest number of associate degrees for transfer offered at Cuesta College of any college or any community college in the state. So we did like to brag on that a little bit. But yeah, this is the list of degrees that we offer associate degrees for transfer in. And the way that the program, what this works is that you would essentially work on completing general education requirements for the CSU, but then you'd also complete a list of major requirements for your specific degree. So let's say you want to be a political science major and you're interested in applying to a couple different California state universities, let's say San Diego State and Sacramento State and Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Well, the good news is for that major specifically, all three of those campuses accept the associate degree for transfer in political science. And for Cal Poly SLO, it's only one of 5 majors that they actually give additional points to students that have an associate degree for transfer in. So it's not every major for Cal Poly, it's only 5 majors, but for most of the other CSU campuses, they really like transfer students having these degrees completed. So they do sometimes give you an extra bump in the admission process, but they call it a GPA bump. And so for the sake of admission, instead of applying, let's say you apply with a 3.2 GPA, some campuses will give you a 0.1 GPA bump, meaning it would be a 3.3 GPA just for the sake of transfer admission to that campus. So that can be really helpful too, because some of these schools, some of the California state universities like San Diego, Long Beach, San Jose, they're pretty competitive. So, the more competitive you can be as an applicant, the better. And earning these associate degrees for transfer for some schools like San Diego State are really hugely important for getting students in.
We have a question.
Okay, and I see one coming in. What is the most common major at Cal Poly for an AA library info tech from Cuesta? Ooh, that's a great question. Let's go back. Actually, I'm not going to go to the Cal Poly website, but yeah, I will. Hang tight with me just 1 minute. I'm going to show you some options here. And feel free to keep asking those questions because I want to make sure that you all are getting all your great questions answered. So if we want to look at the list of majors that Cal Poly SLO offers, I would go to their website and go to just Cal Poly admissions. And then if you select, there's a list of majors there, and I don't know how well you all can see this. Hopefully it's bigger on your screen than it is on mine because I know it's really tiny and hard to read. But it shows all the majors that are available at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And there is nothing in library or information tech. I'd say that the closest matches could be something in maybe communication studies or graphic communication might be a good close match. For information technology, there is actually a concentration in their business program. So under business administration, there's a concentration that is management information systems that does deal with information technology. But that's a really good question. I would encourage you to look at the list and kind of research some of the majors at Poly on their website, and that way maybe you could find a match that's kind of close to what you're looking for. But I'm thinking maybe graphic communication would be the first one I'd direct you to.
Kate, can you explain how they would match up which major to choose at the university that they're transferring to based on what major they took at Cuesta?
Yeah, and you're welcome. to the student that wrote in. Thanks. So matching up your Cuesta major. So I know when you apply into Cuesta, you're picking a major from the list that we gave you, right? And sometimes you might look at that list and think your major's not on there, your real major that you want to study. That's because that list is limited to the programs and degrees that we offer at Cuesta College, and it doesn't really cover all the broad majors that are offered at universities. There are thousands of different majors out there at different universities. So I would really encourage you to think about your longest term goal first. So if your main goal is to transfer to a four-year university, then you want to keep that as your primary goal and keep that transfer major as your primary goal. And then when you meet with a counselor, you can ask them the question, just like what I was asked in the chat. What major, at Cuesta is the closest match to my transfer major, or vice versa? And then we can really help you, clarify that. Sometimes there really isn't a great match at Cuesta. So maybe you're interested in a certain major for transfer, but we just don't have that major. Like recreation is a good example of that, where we just don't offer it at Cuesta College. So yeah, sometimes your transfer major might not be on our list, and that's perfectly okay. We really want to focus on matching you with the classes that you're going to need to get into your university. So a counselor can help you do that. That's a good question. Any other questions? Okay, so we did talk a little bit about the ADT program. I highly recommend looking into that. You can check out the different links on here if you want to see what our general education patterns look like. If you want to get a good overview of what California State University admissions requirements are, I would direct you to the website Cal State Apply. Lots of great information about all of our California State University campuses. And great information just about selecting a campus with your major, what your dates are going to look like for your application timelines, all those pieces to the CSU transfer puzzle. All right, so now let's shift over for a minute and talk about UC transfer. So the other option is UC transfer, and there are 10 UCs in the system, but there are only 9 that accept undergraduate transfers. The one on the list that does not accept undergraduate transfers is UC San Francisco. That is only graduate level programs. So that if that campus interests you, you can think about that for down the road, but that's about it. But I do love to encourage incoming students to consider the UC system, especially if you've never considered it before, or if maybe you thought that you couldn't afford it, or that academically that you couldn't get in, because as a transfer student, things change a little bit. And really the UC system favors transfer applicants, and they really put a strong message out to our transfer students that they want you to consider the UC system, that it is very, very doable. Transferring to UC for a California community college student is a very, very good goal to have, because the UC system really, really does want community college transfers. So I would encourage you to research some of these UC campuses if you're interested in them. And then I also like to share with students that there is a scholarship for the UC system that's absolutely fantastic. And I don't see the link on here, but I know it's somewhere on our website. But let me just pull it up on another page. It's actually called the UC Blue and Gold, and you might have heard about this from your high school counselor. But the Blue and Gold scholarship for the UC is, it's just wonderful. It basically means that if your family income, hopefully you can read that okay. If your family income is $80,000 a year or less, and you qualify for financial aid, which if your family income is $80,000 a year or less, you will qualify for financial aid as long as you complete your FAFSA. And we want to encourage you to do that. But for students that fit that category, you can actually go to a UC for free for 2 years. So 67% of transfer students that go to a UC campus pay zero in tuition and fees for 2 years. It is such a fantastic program that you can get a world-class education at one of these UC campuses for free. So if you are thinking, that you couldn't afford a UC, I want to challenge you to rethink that and maybe look into this and consider UCs as an option, because it's so exciting when students do submit their applications. And this time of year, we're hearing back from students that have been admitted at their university campuses, and then they get their financial award letters, for financial aid award letters. And when they find out that they're not going to have to pay, for that UC, it's just so exciting. So if that is something that you think might relate to you, I would encourage you to investigate it a little more. Another program related to UCs that's really good to know about is called the TAG program. So it's a transfer admission guarantee. TAG, there it is. Basically is a contract between you and one of the 6 UC campuses that guarantees you admission as long as you meet the requirements that UC campus has for you, which are usually GPA, and courses being completed by certain dates, and certain courses completed for your majors. So it's a great way to have a guaranteed admission agreement in place so that you're absolutely going to be admitted at a certain campus as long as you meet the requirements outlined for it. So UC TAG program, really great to look into. And I always like to encourage students that are coming in to think about having something like a tag in your plan, because that way you have a guarantee. And after all your hard work at Cuesta, you're going to have guaranteed admissions somewhere. The CSU system doesn't really have a TAG program like this, a guaranteed admission program like TAG, but that associate degree for transfer option that I talked about, that is similar in the respect that it gives you a guaranteed backup plan at a California State University. So if you were denied admission at all of your CSUs that you applied to, they're guaranteeing that you're going to be given admission somewhere. It might not be one of the schools that you initially applied into, but one of the other CSU campuses will actually send you an admission letter. And sometimes it's actually more than one campus. So both the associate degree for transfer and the TAG program, 2 great ways to have a guaranteed admission in your back pocket, so you're getting in somewhere, and then apply to some of these other schools that you're interested in, and have have some options, so that when you're hearing back from your schools that you've been admitted, you have some options to choose from. All right, we'll take a pause. Yeah.
Can I interject, actually?
Please.
I would like to mention that if you're interested in UC TAG specifically, it's a good idea to meet with a counselor to discuss that early in your time at Cuesta, so that you can plan everything out and start filling out. They have a tool called the TAP, the Transfer Admission Planner, which is a great thing to use as you go in your time at Cuesta, rather than doing it all at once at the end. So TAG is something that you would benefit from starting early in your time at Cuesta. And also, as you are researching universities, once you're a Cuesta student, we do offer university rep visits frequently in the Transfer Center, where you can actually meet one-on-one with representatives, admissions representatives from CSUs, UCs, and private universities in California, sometimes even schools outside of California. Right now, those are all via Zoom, but they'll be back in person hopefully soon. So that's just one of the things that we will offer you from the Transfer Center once you're a Cuesta student. So you can meet with as many different university reps as you want to talk to them about the culture at the universities, or what requirements you might need to meet, any questions that you have. That's what those appointments are intended for, and they can really help you decide on which school you want to go to. Yeah, that's right there. Virtual call. Yeah. Hopefully the virtual will be gone soon.
Right. Yeah, so through that link, as Ruth was saying, you can see all the campuses that we have university reps that we can connect you with. So all of these are links for our Cuesta students to be able to set up an appointment with those reps.
And the university reps will also frequently do presentations for our students where they just give information about the school. We have a question about study abroad. What will study abroad look like next school year? Our study abroad is done through Santa Barbara City College, and what they are saying at this time is that they are hopeful for the fall study abroad programs to go on as planned. So it's still, I mean, you know, things can change, but as of now, I believe they are planning on doing their study abroad fall programs. Let me double check that real quick.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. They've got some great programs lined up too.
Yeah, I just pulled up their website. They have fantastic programs, and the coordinator for these programs is fantastic. She would be happy to talk with you if you have any questions about study abroad. And, you know, the reason that we go through Santa Barbara City College is because since we have so many community colleges in California, there's a couple community colleges that have kind of taken on the role of being like a study abroad hub. So, you know, there's a couple community colleges that have these bigger study abroad programs that, you know, all the other community colleges in that area will just send students to. So this is a fantastic option through Santa Barbara City. So please feel free to check out their website via our website if you'd like, and see what kind of options they have.
Okay, yeah, as of now, they are planning fall 2021 programs to be moving forward. Hopefully that will stay that way.
Yeah. There's some cool options on here.
Yeah.
Beginning surfing, stretching, and relaxing in Sydney, Australia, winter break 21. That sounds pretty.
That sounds amazing.
Sign me up.
I also want to mention while I'm thinking of it, the Transfer Center does have an Instagram account that you are welcome to follow if you want to stay up to date on our information. I do share information about the study abroad directly from SBCC, as well as our rep visits and workshops and, you know, all sorts of things. So the Instagram page is also a great way to keep up with what's going on with the Transfer Center. And you do not have to be a Cuesta College student to follow it, of course.
And you just search for Cuesta College Transfer, Ruth, right?
Yes, it's Cuesta_transfer_center.
Cool.
I think if you search Cuesta Transfer Center, it'll come up.
So, and I guess we should explain how, you know, we're not only university transfer, we also handle career and major exploration. So if you're undecided on your major and you're not sure, you know, or maybe you know, like I was in college, maybe you have so many majors that you're interested in, you don't know which one to pick. I think I had like 5 that I was interested in. That's perfectly fine. And we have a career counselor, Allie, who's fantastic, who can talk to you about how to narrow down a major, what, you know, careers go along with that major, or even what universities offer that major, that sort of thing. So if you're undecided on your major or still just trying to figure it out, definitely check out our career exploration webpage. We have some fun assessment tools that you can use, or websites that you can use that tell you a little bit about your personality type and what, you know, what majors could be a good fit for you. But then also think about meeting with Allie to talk about your thoughts about your career goals, or even just what you want to study at Cuesta or at your university. So you can check out that webpage.
We have a question in the chat.
Cool. Let's see here. What types of volunteer internship work contributes to the transfer success to universities with, oh, that's such a good question. So, okay, so there's very limited architecture options out there, and you probably know this already, but when we're talking about an architecture major, you're really looking at either Cal Poly SLO, Cal Poly Pomona, or if you want a a little bit of a less hands-on learning approach about working in the field of architecture, and an approach that's a little bit more like the history of architecture, you could look at UC Berkeley and UCLA because they also have programs. All four of those programs can ultimately lead you to completing all the steps that you would need as an architect to become become licensed. But just know that the two UC programs at Berkeley and LA, they're a little bit different focus. They're fantastic programs, but you would need to go on to get the master's in order to get the practical coursework that you need for a licensure. Okay, but all that said, so there's only those four programs. And for Cal Poly SLO and Cal Poly Pomona, which are the two most popular CSU programs in the state, they really do want you to have a portfolio put together. And most of the students that they admit are admitted based on their portfolio. So all the work that's been completed in their architecture classes at Cuesta will go into that portfolio. Now, I'm saying all that because very little consideration is given at those two schools, at Cal Poly SLO or Cal Poly Pomona, for volunteer and internship work. However, Cal Poly SLO does actually ask on their application if you have worked while you're in school and how many hours a week you've worked. They also ask if you've done extracurricular activities and had any leadership roles in those. Those do give you some minimal points towards admission. So something like a volunteer or internship can relate to those specific questions and can give you a little bit of extra consideration. But they don't ask like specifically like who was it with, what did you do, that sort of thing. It's just a more broad, open-ended question. The UC programs are a little bit different because you actually get to put in exactly what volunteer internship work you did. And for admission consideration, they'll look at, anything that you put down there related to those activities. Or even if let's say you just work a job at a restaurant, waiting tables, you can put that in there as well. They want to see all the activities that students have done while they were completing their years at Cuesta before transfer. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but there's really nothing specific I would say that you could do that would benefit you directly for getting into an architecture program, other than taking all those architecture classes and building up a beautiful portfolio, as you do, and then also just kind of keeping note of any of the volunteering or interning or working, any of those activities, so that when you fill out your applications, you can put that information in there. I hope that helps.
I'd like to mention a common question that I run into in the transfer center is not really a question, but a common scenario is that students don't realize how early they need to apply for transfer. If you're planning on going to a UC or a CSU, you will be applying for transfer a full year in advance. I have spoken to students that didn't know that, and they missed their window and they had to wait an entire extra year to apply. So something to keep in mind, if you want to apply, if you plan to transfer, let's say fall of 2024, you're going to be doing your applications fall of 2023. So this is really something that you do need to plan ahead for and put on your calendar so that you don't miss the window. It is a big window. You have a full 2 months to get your CSU applications in, October and November. And then the UC application, the window to submit the application is only November, but you can start working on it in October as well. So something to keep in mind. We have another question.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Ruth. That's so true that students don't realize how quickly in the process they actually have to fill out those applications. More questions are coming in about Cal Poly. So let's talk a little bit more about Cal Poly SLO. And I'll go back to the web page here. So let's see, we have a question specifically about engineering transfer applicants. So great question. So let me just start off by saying that when you come to Cuesta College and start your time at Cuesta College or any community college, The university no longer views you as a freshman applicant. You suddenly are switched over into being a transfer applicant. And at that point, those universities are no longer going to ask you for high school transcripts. And they're also most likely, unless some private schools might ask for test scores, but for the CSU and the UC system, as a transfer applicant, you do not have to submit SAT or ACT scores. Okay, so those tests, most of our applicants do not report that information. I believe they even pulled it from the CSU application this past cycle so that students could not even submit that application. So that answers one of those questions related to Cal Poly SLO, that they're not going to ask for the SAT. So if you know that you are coming to Cuesta and you know that you want to transfer to Cal Poly SLO as a transfer applicant, you will not need to have the SAT. So yeah, what is important? Grades are hugely important. So even though we do have the highest transfer rate to Cal Poly SLO and highest numbers, our students do work really hard to earn these strong GPAs that are needed for acceptance. And the GPAs for different majors kind of vary. So, if we're talking about the College of Engineering, I can tell you that there's a range in these GPA averages for our transfer applicants. That can be as low as like a 3.0 average transfer GPA for a general engineering applicant into Cal Poly SLO, all the way up to a 3.8 for a computer science applicant. And most of the engineering majors fall somewhere in the middle of the threes. So I'd say, close like a mechanical and civil, environmental, most of those fall more in the mid threes. I believe mechanical is about a 3.5, 3.6 GPA average for transfer applicant admission. So yes, competitive grades are very important. Also, choosing the right classes for your specific major is very, very important. So if you go to the Cal Poly website, which I showed before, but I'm going to show it again because there's so much interest in Cal Poly. If you go to the admissions page and then go to transfer student, you'll see that you can go to a link to major specific transfer criteria. And this link is going to show you all the major options at Cal Poly SLO. And let's just open, for example, mechanical engineering, because that seems to be the most popular engineering these past few years. So for mechanical engineering applicants, we want students to look at the guide that corresponds with the year that that student wants to transfer into Cal Poly. So if you're going to be starting off at Cuesta this fall, then your guide has not yet been published on here. So you'll keep an eye out for it. But for now, for planning, you're going to use the latest guide available. And if you go in, you're going to see that it says required courses. For the required courses, these are all the Cal Poly courses in Cal Poly names and numbers that are going to be required of applicants to be admitted. Without these classes, you are most likely to not be admitted into this major. So we like to meet with students in their first semester at Cuesta to write up a student education plan, and all of our counselors on staff do this with students, and we'll take your specific university you're interested in, your specific major that you want to get into, and we're going to look at these requirements and write them up in a plan so that we have everything required mapped out for you in your plan, and then you can see a better timeline too of how long it's going to take for you to be admitted. Now you can also see it says desired courses, and most majors also have desired courses. Now the desired, you do not have to have them to get admitted, but you're much more likely to be admitted if you have them. So we always like to write these desired courses into the student education plan so that the student gets maximum point consideration for Cal Poly SLO. But this is really the first priority, is completing the required and desired courses. We know that is hugely important for students for getting in, and then also having strong grades in these classes. So we're talking A's and B's. C's are really tough because you cannot repeat a C grade. So if you get a C, it's stuck on your transcript, and it's gonna, pull your GPA down a bit. D's and F's, You know, they're not ideal, of course, but you can repeat them. And if you repeat a course at Cuesta College and the new grade is processed, the old grade is then exempt and will no longer influence your transfer GPA or your transfer application to Cal Poly or any other CSU. So that's an important point to know as well. But so yeah, grades are hugely important. The other thing that is important, and I will go back one screen to show you. Maybe one more. Here we go. The selection criteria. So if you look at just this list, this is everything that's important for getting into Cal Poly. So 60 transferable credits in order to be admitted at Cal Poly SLO, a UC campus, or most CSUs. And we're talking about transferable credits. So that is going to be any 200 number course at Cuesta is going to be considered transferable. Now, if you've taken AP credits in high school, we can also give you some college credits for those courses, and those can go into that transferable total credits. So also the general education is important. Now, Cal Poly does not require that you have the entire general education pattern completed for admission, but they will give you points for each area that you have completed. So that's another reason that our applicants get in such high numbers, is that typically we encourage them to complete as much general education as possible, if not all general ed requirements, and then all of those required and desired. And then, like I mentioned before, the GPA, hugely important. Those extracurricular activities, the work experience can add a little bit of points. And then there are a couple other things, a couple other factors that can give a candidate a little bit of admission consideration, like if you have veteran status, if you're a first generation college student, these sorts of things. For architecture, music, and art and design applicants, the portfolio is incredibly important, because once you get past this first part of the process, then they're going to really be admitting you based on portfolio. So I hope that that helps answer the question about what applicants need to be competitive. The window for Cal Poly SLO. Okay, great question. So yes, you're still going to be applying 1 year in advance, like Ruth said. So let's say you all are starting here fall of 2021 at Cuesta, and you want to fast track it and try to get all your requirements done in 2 years, and then Poly SLO for fall 2023. That is absolutely doable. You'll be applying and filling out your applications in fall 2022. Okay, so the application would open October 1st, and you'll have until November 30th to complete your Cal State Apply application. It's one platform, one application for all California State University campuses. And then you submit that by November 30th. So that's the window for applying to Cal Poly SLO. Okay, let's see. If I complete all the required classes, desired classes, and other requirements with strong grades, what are the chances I could still not get admitted to Cal Poly? You know, I'll tell you, Colton, it really does depend on your major. Some majors, we see students getting in much higher numbers. But if you have a strong GPA, if you have strong grades, and you've completed all those required and all those desired classes in the general education, then, you're the kind of applicant that I would meet with and say, you're going to be really competitive. And we could even meet in person if you attend Cuesta this fall, and I could give you a good ballpark GPA to really strive for your specific major. So, there is always that chance that you might not be admitted. And if you all saw the Tribune article last week or 2 weeks ago about Cal Poly SLO admission, this year was the hardest year ever to get in. So, we just never know what the cycle is going to look like for Cal Poly that year. Apparently last year they had over attendance from their admitted students. So more students that were admitted ended up coming than they had anticipated. And it was like 1,200 students that they hadn't planned for that ended up accepting their admission and coming to Cal Poly. So what they had to do was adjust this year, and they admitted a lot fewer students. It made the acceptance rates a lot lower, especially for freshman applicants. Transfer applicants weren't hit quite as much, but still it did have an impact. So we see these years where, they admit higher numbers and higher percentages of students, and then some years where they pull back a little and they have to admit less students. So I hope that helps. But I think if you do, if you start strong at Cuesta and you really start with, taking the right classes and earning strong grades, then and preparing well, then I say you have a good chance of getting admitted to Cal Poly.
And I would like to say, for any students that are coming to Cuesta and are interested in transfer, utilize the transfer center, meet with the counselors anytime you feel like you need any kind of help, or even if you just have questions. That is exactly what we're here for. We're available right now via Zoom and email, and when we're back in school, back on campus, the transfer center is open every day, Monday through Friday, and it doesn't matter how many times you come in to see us, we will welcome you every single time.
Yes, and Colton, you asked about computer engineering specifically, so I'll just tell you the average GPA. Now, this is for 2 cycles ago, but it was about a 3.46. So that would be a good target, or shoot even a little higher than that. All right. Okay, let's see. We have a question about biology. Starting in the fall, plan on playing sports. Fantastic. You want to transfer to a UC or private university. Great. So, our athletes, you're going to be working with a counselor very closely, because all of our athletes have to create an education plan every semester to be eligible for participating in their sport. So the benefit that comes along with that is our athletic counselors are fantastic about advising students. They know, they're very, very well versed in transfer. So you're going to get some really great guidance every semester when you're meeting with that counselor on planning for transfer. Another great thing about playing sports is you get to actually report that on your UC application as an activity. So they'll take into consideration all those hours per week you're going to be investing into your sport. Now, they do allow you to put more information into that application if you do want to put in volunteer work you're doing, if you want to join a club at Cuesta, which is such a great way to connect with other students. I highly recommend looking at our list of clubs. That can help too. If you are going to be working part-time, you can report that as an activity on your UC application. So the UC system specifically really values like getting a whole picture of an applicant. So they want to hear like everything you've done, spend during your time while you're at the community college preparing for transfer. So they give you a lot of opportunity to put in all those activities you're doing. So yeah, I do think that to answer your question, the more you can do, the better, but also we want you to really keep it balanced so that you are not overburdened and overwhelmed, and that you have a great experience at Cuesta. If you take on too much, we don't want it to affect your academics at all, because we know, for the UCs, you're going to need to have a strong GPA. So, so I would want to encourage you to find a good balance, talk to your athletics counselor about creating a good plan, and then, do as much or as little as feels right. But that the sports will absolutely count. All right, so let's see. Is it possible to transfer after 1 year at Cuesta? That's a really good question. Typically, okay, let me think about the right way to answer this 100% accurately. Yes, it's possible, but it is most likely going to be to a private university or an out-of-state university. So some of our private and out-of-state universities will take students with 24 credit minimum. So, some even lower than that. So some private universities really, if you can afford to go to a private university, they'll take you whenever you can go. But that does come with a significant price tag, right? So it can be possible to transfer after 1 year at Cuesta. It is not likely possible to transfer to a California State University or a University of California after 1 year, because both of those systems strongly encourage students to transfer into junior standing. And that means that you've completed your freshman and sophomore years at Cuesta College. You get all of your general education completed, your lower division coursework done, and then when you transfer, you know you're at junior standing and you have 2 more years left at the university. And that's really the best way, I think, too, if you're coming in and you're getting our Promise Scholarship, or even if you're not, if you're paying community college costs as opposed to university costs, it's going to save you the most in the long run. So I hope that helps. One more little bit that I should probably add in is that, like I said, if you're getting APs in high school, if you're taking AP classes and you've taken the AP test and you get a 3 or higher on that AP test, that counts for college credit. And I know some of our local high schools, and they have very robust AP programs. So we've had students come in that have 24 credits completed at their high school just from taking APs. So that's another consideration, is that sometimes, yes, it can be possible, especially if you have all those AP credits completed, or if you have completed college courses while you're in high school. So definitely talk to a counselor, and they'll talk with you about your specific situation and options. Do you think it's a reasonable goal to try to transfer to a private school? Sure, absolutely. There are some great private schools out there. So I would really encourage you to do some research on their websites. I think it's really important to look at the cost, because usually a private university does come with that higher price tag. And also, you would want to talk, with their financial aid office to see, what types of financial aid packages they have for transfer students. So yeah, I do think private schools are absolutely a reasonable goal. And we have students that transfer to private universities every year. So yeah, we'd be happy to talk with you more about that.
Oh, Kate, I think it's worthwhile to mention the WUI program real quick.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And let me go back. I just want to compliment you all. These questions are so good. Really. I know WUI's in here somewhere, Ruth, but I think
it is in there somewhere.
It's in here somewhere. We have so much information in here. Sometimes it's hard to find what we're looking for. Okay, so you might have heard about, and I'm sorry for jumping around. I'm going to find it.
You could maybe search it.
Yeah, that's a good call. You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm just going to open it in a separate tab, because you might even want to just go directly to, we call it WUI, but it's also considered this.
It's under the private and out-of-state universities link.
Oh, it is. Okay, thank you. It's also known as the Western Undergraduate Exchange, but we call it WUI for short. And it is on our website. So if you dig around in there, you're going to find it. And Ruth said it's under private universities. Is that where it is?
Yes, under the Explore Colleges and Universities tab.
Okay.
So if you're on the Transfer Center page and then you click on Explore Colleges and Universities, the box.
Oh, and then
on the left-hand side, there's the private / out-of-state.
There it is. Perfect. Thank you, Ruth. Okay, so there it is. So Western Undergraduate Exchange. Now, this is a fantastic program. It basically, there's these 16 states that have made an agreement that if you go to one of these neighboring states, then you get a significant savings in your tuition just for being in one of those neighboring states. So I really encourage you, if you're thinking about an out-of-state school, it's really great to check out this website, and you'll want to see if there is, oh, here we go. You'll want to see if there are some schools that you might be interested in, and also see what the savings is going to look like for you. So just for example, let's say you wanted to look for a school in, I'll show you this one because this one's always really surprising. But let's say we want to go to Hawaii, because why not? Hawaii is amazing, right? So we'll put in Hawaii, and then let's say, okay, you know what, Maui sounds awesome, and wow, Look at the tuition cost. Okay, so here's all the majors that would be eligible for the WUI. Now, I hope you can see this better than they have some really cool programs down there. And then you basically, if you look over at their tuition, you can see that the tuition through the WUI program is $58.95 a year. So that's for a full year of university. Just to put that in perspective, Cal Poly SLO is about $10,000-ish, about $10,000 a year. So you would be going out of state to a university in Hawaii and spending about $4,000 less than you would, to stay local and go to Cal Poly SLO. So it's kind of shocking sometimes when you look at these different out-of-state tuition packages for other schools and see how much money you'd be saving when you usually think that going out of state is going to be that much more expensive. So yeah, it's a great tool to use if you're open to traveling out of state and you want to see different options. Then you can go ahead and look and find out what your WUI tuition would look like. So here's another one. Now, some of these, like if you look at Colorado State University, which is, $18,000 a year with WUI tuition. So it's pretty steep, pretty expensive. So definitely play around with it, but it's a great way to see savings at out-of-state universities. Okay, great. Let's see here. Stanford. Okay, let's see here. Let me go. I don't think we have a direct link into Stanford. And I'll tell you what, I think having Stanford it's a fantastic goal. But I will tell you, for transfer students, they do not accept that many transfer students. So super important to prepare from day one at Cuesta. So you would want to look at the requirements for your specific major. You're going to want to target pretty much straight A's in all of your classes because that GPA is very, very high. It's not like the UC system where they found that they, put this little priority on community college applicants. It is absolutely doable, but it is going to be competitive. So I would start by looking at their website and reading through information about eligibility, read through all these sorts of things that they have on there. After you've done some good web research, then meet with a counselor at Cuesta to write up a plan for your specific major. And then we might even want to have you reach out to an admissions rep at your private university, so like at Stanford or whatever private school you're interested in, and we would bring them into the conversation as well. And we would try to get some good communication going between your Cuesta counselor, your Stanford counselor, or whatever private university, and yourself, so that you really have a good understanding of what classes to take and what types of minimum GPAs you're going to need in order to be competitive for admission. Okay, that's a great question. Let's see here. I'm going to go back. Any other questions? Ruth, anything else you wanted to?
For those of you that will be starting in the fall, Canvas is the online platform that we use for all classes now, and we do have a Canvas page as well. So I encourage you to join our Canvas page. It's going to be the quickest and easiest way to stay up to date on what's going on in the Transfer Center, so that you can know which university reps we have coming, which workshops we have coming up, and all sorts of fun things. So that is definitely something that you're going to want to have on your Canvas dashboard. So take a look at that. We've got about 25 minutes left.
I was on mute. Yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's any other websites that might be useful. And if you have questions, please feel free to type them in. Let's see. Looks like we do still have a few students in the room. So if you've recently joined us, feel free to ask us any transfer questions that you might have. We're answering questions. We kind of walk students through the website to show information that we have online. But if you have a specific school or program that you're interested in, we'd love to, talk to you about that as well. You can let us know your interest. And I think that I just want to point out as well, Bruce, did you already show this, the virtual office?
No.
Or did we talk about it? I don't think we
At
did.
At the very beginning, I think we have a new group of students now.
Okay. Yeah, since we have a new group, I'll just show you on our Transfer Center website. We have a link to our virtual office hosted by Miss Ruth. And so if you want to pop in and ask any transfer questions, it's just a direct Zoom link that'll go right into her virtual office, and you can stop in and ask her a question. So you can see the hours for that there. You can always send us an email too if you have questions, more involved questions that you want answered via email. Feel free to send your email to transfer@cuesta.edu. And what's that?
I was just going to say, we generally respond within the same day.
Yes, Ruth's very fast at responding. And if it's something that really involves, like a counselor meeting with a student too, she'll let you know that as well and connect you with a counselor. And then you can see we're always posting new, information related to whatever season we're in right now. So right now, our Cuesta students are finding out that they've been admitted at their universities, which is so incredibly exciting to us because, after years of hard work, or perhaps 3 years of hard work, it's all paid off now, and they're being admitted to these universities.
Kate, you froze.
Am I back?
Yes, now you are.
Oh, good. Sorry, I got frozen there for a minute.
No worries.
Okay, sorry about that. So let's see, I'm not sure where I left off, but I was going to show you the FAQ and resources. Great information in there. If you want to see what general education patterns look like, you can find those in there. You can find out what your AP credit in high school is going to give you credit for at Cuesta, what kind of units you can get for your AP classes that you took. So there's lots and lots of links in here that you might want to check out, and good information to read as well. All right, anybody in the room have any questions?
Erin Parsons has joined our room. Hello, Erin.
Yay, Erin! Erin!
Oh.
And I see Emily's in the room. Emily, do you have a specific university that you're interested in? You can type it in the chat if you'd like. And you don't have to if you don't want to. No specifics yet. Okay. Do you have any majors in mind that you're thinking about?
Maybe we should show her the Explore Colleges and Universities page. I don't think she was here for that.
Okay, yeah. You want to study science. Very cool. Awesome. Okay, so I will show you this, and if you saw it before, I think you joined us after I went through this before, so hopefully this is new to you. But if you want to, click on the link Explore Colleges and Universities. This is a great starting point. And I'm going to say, if you want to study science, then you've got lots of options. So just about every university on this list is going to have some science options for you. Some schools, if you want a more specific science, like a marine biology or something like that, then it's going to narrow down the list a little bit. But if you're thinking like a biological science or science or chemistry or something like that, then you're going to have, the sky's the limit. You're going to have lots and lots of options. And certainly Cal Poly SLO has some great science majors. If you're thinking a CSU transfer, you've got 24 different options here of campuses that you could look at. And each of these is going to link you directly to the campus website. So you can go to that campus and look at their website for more information. And in this digital age, it's actually really fantastic for students that there is so much available on campus websites. You can tour a campus on their website. You can find out admissions requirements. You can connect with a representative for that university. So definitely use these links to help direct you to different schools. And then the associate degree for transfer, if you're thinking about a California State University campus and you're thinking about earning a degree in like biology or agricultural plant science or geology, let's see, what other sciences do we have on here? Political science, a different form of science, or public health science, then, or even like physics, then you could think about earning one of these associate degrees for transfer. And these degrees really are intended to help you transfer seamlessly into a California State University for your major, so that when you go in as a junior, you have all of that required lower division freshman and sophomore year coursework done at Cuesta before transfer. So really great to consider an associate degree for transfer. It can give you a little bit of a GPA bump at certain impacted campuses as well, so it makes you a little more competitive as an applicant. And then the other perk is that if you apply to campuses and are denied, which this is very worst case scenario, and I'm sure this won't happen to you, but if it does happen, then you're guaranteed a backup option. So you're guaranteed that one of the CSUs that has space in your major, at least one of them will reach out to you and offer you admission. So you're guaranteed to have a place to go when you transfer. So I would encourage you to consider an associate degree for transfer. And then I also would encourage you to think about UC transfer, because the UCs have phenomenal science programs. And, I'm sure you've heard about UC Berkeley, UCLA, UC Santa Barbara have some really outstanding science programs. UC San Diego is actually ranked one of the top 5 research institutions in the country. It is extremely cutting edge, especially in sciences. They are probably, like one of the top tier schools. So I would really encourage you to check out UC San Diego. They have some fantastic professors there and programs for future science majors. And then one of the perks with UC system, so for some of these schools like UC Santa Barbara, UC Irvine, UC Davis, you could consider getting a TAG agreement, which is a transfer admission guarantee. So you'd meet with a Cuesta counselor and map out your classes, for the next 2 years or 3 years in order to be earning guaranteed admission into one of those UC campuses. Okay, let's see here. Does the GE course plan look different for the 2 years here at Cuesta, depending on what we plan to study and depending on UC? That is a fantastic question, Emily. Really good question. So if you are thinking about only applying to California State universities and nobody else, and your heart is just set on a CSU, then I would say you could go for the CSU general education pattern. okay? And that would be perfectly fine. But if you want to keep your doors open and you want to be able to apply to UCs, California state universities, private universities, out-of-state universities, then you're going to want to follow the IGETC general education pattern. And this is the pattern that works for all of those systems. So it's the most likely to be accepted by like an out-of-state or private university and guaranteed for UC and CSU. So because you are thinking science, and I do want to encourage you to think about UCs, I would say this would probably be the best pattern to use, but I also want to let you know that for your specific major, science majors don't always have to complete the entire GE pattern, especially if we're talking about a UC transfer. For UC admission, many of our UC campuses, they want you to focus on science classes, math classes, and then a couple other general eds. And that's what's going to fill up the bulk of your 2 years at Cuesta. So they're not going to require you to complete the entire IGETC pattern, just part of it. So we could talk about more in detail at a counseling meeting. The California State University pattern, though, usually they want you to, if you're going to a CSU, they want you to complete that in full. So that was a really good question, and it does depend on where you want to go. All right, making sure I answered all of that question. Great question. How do you connect with the counselor? All right, so if you go to admissions and aid and then hover down and go to counseling, we have a fantastic counseling department, and there are two options, but I would really recommend the full appointment option. So if you click on that link, it's going to take you into some different options. So there's lots of options, levels of options. So once you get to this page, you're going to go general students, book an appointment, and it's going to take you into an online scheduling screen where you can choose a counselor specifically by name, or you can just go by whatever date and time works best for you. Most of our counselors are very well versed in transfer. And if you're working with a newer counselor that isn't quite as comfortable, they'll give you as much information as they have, and then they'll also refer you on. So I would say feel free to schedule an appointment, and then you can walk through some of this information with a counselor, and they can help you write up an education plan.
And if you need assistance booking the appointment, if it's not working for you for whatever reason, you can always come into my Zoom lobby Monday through Friday. I can help you with that. Or you can go into, we have a fantastic counseling assistant, Rebecca. She also has a Zoom lobby. Hers is Monday through Thursday, I believe, and she can also help you with booking an appointment.
Thank you for your great questions. Let's see, did you have any others for us? Looks like we have a new student in the room. Welcome, Sean. We are trying to answer any questions related to transfer that you might have. So Sean, if you have any questions about transferring or schools that you're interested in, any of that sort of thing, please feel free to type your question in the chat. And we're just kind of walking through some of the pages on our Transfer Center website. We just showed how to book a counseling appointment so that you can meet with the counselor and write up an education plan. Go back to our homepage. Okay. So Sean, since you're kind of newer to our room, I'm just going to show you our University Transfer Career Center webpage. You can find it on, sorry to scroll around, but our cuesta.edu page. And if you go to admissions and aid and go over to Transfer Center, that's where we live, or where our website lives. You can reach out via virtual office or by email. Virtual office, you can stop in and talk with Ruth about any of your transfer questions, or you can send us an email and we'll get back to you quickly answering any questions that you might have. But this website always is filled with information about what's going on in this season, for our transfer students. So right now we're hearing about a lot of students that have been admitted at their universities that they applied into. So we're celebrating with them and hosting workshops to show them their next steps for after admission. Let's see, I see your question. Is there a designed path for transferring to Cal Poly SLO for engineering? That's a great question. So we do have a very high number of students that transfers to Cal Poly SLO every year. And last year we had a 52% acceptance rate of our Cuesta applicants. So really high, strong number. But yes, the most important thing as an applicant or a transfer student preparing for Cal Poly SLO is to follow the Cal Poly transfer selection criteria guide that you'll find on the Cal Poly website. So I'm just going to take you there and show you in Cal Poly admissions. You can see this is really the selection criteria for transfer students, shows you all the things that are really important for applicants to have. So you have to pick a specific major, and it sounds like you already have narrowed that down. You're going to be an engineering major, but they have a bunch of different types of engineering majors at Poly too, so you'll want to narrow that part down as well and decide which type of engineering you want to go into. You're going to need to have 60 transferable semester credits completed at the time, but prior to transfer. So that would be that spring term prior to the fall that you're going to plan to transfer. You need to have those 60 credits done. You're going to need to complete some general education classes. Now, as an engineering applicant, you might not need to have all of your GE completed. The more that you have done, the more points that you get, and it's all kind of this points game. We want you to be as competitive as possible, but we also don't want you to take too much. So like there's this great spot we want you to be between the 60 minimum credits that you need to have in order to get into Cal Poly and the 70 credits maximum that you can transfer to Cal Poly and apply towards your bachelor's degree. So the units are important. And your counselor can let you know which GE classes you absolutely need to have and which ones you can either choose to take or wait on until after admission. GPA is really important for engineering majors too. You're going to look at, this wide range in the College of Engineering. So our general engineering applicants, it was about a 3.0 GPA to be admitted as a transfer applicant. But the computer science major was up at about a 3.8 average GPA. Mechanical engineering, computer engineering, civil engineering, those all fall in right in the middle around a 3.5 or a 3.6 average transfer admit GPA. All right, so those are the important pieces, but really the step beyond that is looking at the specific coursework that you need for your major. So let's just look, for example, at, we'll look at mechanical engineering, since that's a really popular one. And if you check out Cal Poly's mechanical engineering transfer requirements, you're going to use the last year available or the year that corresponds with the term you want to start at Poly. So we'll use fall 2022 since I'm assuming you're probably not going to be transferring till 2023. But you can see the list of required classes, and these are the classes that you absolutely have to take, or else you're unlikely to be admitted at Cal Poly. So you can see there's a math sequence, physics sequence, chemistry sequence, and then some engineering classes related to your major. Then there's also a desired course, and this gives you some extra points. So you can see that those extra points under desired, those really help our applicants get in. So really important to try to get as many desired courses completed as possible, but make sure you have all the required courses completed. And these classes that are on here, they're listed in Cal Poly language. So these are the Cal Poly numbers and names for the classes, but you can use a website called assist.org to see what those classes are equal to at Cuesta College, so you know which classes to take at Cuesta. All right, so really, to answer your question, this is going to be the designated path to getting you into your engineering major, picking the right type of engineering that you're going to apply into, and then following that list there. And so you're going to take those required classes, desired classes, and then also any GE as well. Okay, great question. And Emily's back. All right, let's see, Emily, let's see, how do I sign up for my Cuesta portal account? Oh.
So the portal should be set up for you automatically once you've done the application to become a Cuesta student, and the login information is emailed to you.
Yes, so if you haven't yet applied to Cuesta, that's going to be your very first step. And you're going to fill out your admission application to Cuesta. You're going to get a welcome email, and it's going to have information on how to log in to your My Cuesta portal. Let's see. And so that'll be the first step. Then once you get, there you go. Okay, perfect. So then, yeah, once you do that step and you've applied and you get that login, then you can get in there and schedule that counseling appointment. But it does take, you know, what, 24 hours, Ruth, I think, to get the email?
Yeah, I think so. Also, if you're signing up for Cougar Welcome Days coming up in May, you will be able to set your first semester classes at Cougar Welcome Days with the help of a counselor.
Yeah.
So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, hopefully you're considering our Cougar Welcome Days. So it's May 10th through the 14th, and you can find information on our website, but you basically will apply and then complete an online orientation, and then you'll come into one of the sessions on Cougar Welcome Days. They're an hour and a half long, and you get to pick the day and time that works for you. You'll get to talk with a counselor about your classes for fall. We tell you if they look great or make adjustments, and then you get to work with an enrollment success specialist to sign up for the classes. So it's a really great event to attend to get everything done that you need to start for your first term. Great questions. I see we are 3 minutes away from the end, so I want to make sure to answer any other questions that you might have.
If you think of any other questions after this session is over, please feel free to come into my Zoom lobby or shoot us an email.